Have you ever stared into the flickering campfire, the darkness beyond whispering secrets I wish I'd never heard? I'm pulling back the veil on 3 nightmare-true camping horror stories so real, so bone-chilling, they'll haunt your dreams and make me rethink that next trip into the wild. This is my wake-up call. Stick with me, but hurry. These stories demand to be heard before the night deepens. Let's venture in. I feel the damp chill of that misty forest wrapping around me still, the ground soft under my boots with fallen leaves, their earthy scent mingling with the smoke from our dying campfire. I was 22, out with friends in the dense woods of the Pacific Northwest. Our tents pitched in a secluded spot, far from any trail, a place we'd chosen for its isolation, thinking it'd be our sanctuary. The air hung heavy that night, fog rolling in like a living thing, swallowing the trees until I could barely see their faces, the world shrinking to the fragile circle of firelight. We laughed it off at first, sharing beers and swapping ghost stories, the warmth of fleeting comfort. But as the hours slipped away, a silence fell, broken only by the occasional snap of a twig that made my skin prickle. Then I saw it, a shadow, tall and humanoid, moving just beyond the fog's edge, its form twisting unnaturally like it didn't belong to this world, its edges blurring as if it were part of the mist itself. My heart hammered in my chest, a cold sweat breaking out as I whispered to the others, my voice trembling. But they dismissed it as a deer or my imagination running wild, their laughter grating against my growing dread. I couldn't shake it, though. The figure circled our camp closer each time, its presence a weight pressing down, making every breath I took feel labored, the air thick with an unspoken threat. We huddled together, flashlights piercing the mist, and in one beam I caught a glimpse. Eyes, glowing faintly, staring back with an intelligence that chilled me deeper than the night, their light pulsing like a heartbeat. The fog seemed to thicken then, as if protecting the shadow, and I heard a low hum, almost a whisper, calling my name in a voice that mimicked my friend's, but twisted, wrong, the syllables stretching into a guttural hiss. Panic surged as I spun around, the beam shaking in my hand, revealing nothing but swirling mist, but the hum grew louder, vibrating in my bones, and I swore I felt a cold breath on my neck. One friend, bolder than the rest, suggested we investigate, stepping forward with a stick in hand. But as he did, a branch snapped nearby, and something brushed against the tent, a cold, slimy touch that sent us all scrambling back, our shouts echoing into the void. We waited, breath held, the hum turning into faint laughter, a sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, until a shadow loomed over the tent, its outline massive against the fog. We didn't sleep that night, clutching each other as the presence lingered, and at dawn it retreated, leaving marks, footprints that weren't human, elongated and clawed, leading into the trees. Later, park rangers told me hikers had vanished there, their journals mentioning shadows that whispered names, one writing, "It knows you, it waits for you to follow." And I still wake up sweating, the hum in my ears, wondering if it followed me home, its eyes glowing in the corners of my room when the lights dim. I imagine the crackle of that campfire fading into the night, the stars overhead a distant comfort as I zip into my sleeping bag, the pine-scented air lulling me towards sleep, a false sense of peace after a year of chaos. That's how it started for me, solo camping in the remote hills of Georgia, seeking solitude to clear my mind. My tent pitched in a clearing where the wind whispered through the pines. My tent felt safe, a thin barrier against the wild, the nylon rustling softly as I settled in. But around midnight I heard footsteps, slow, deliberate, circling my sight, each step a thud that vibrated through the earth. My body tensed, every muscle rigid as I peered through the mesh window, the darkness revealing nothing but the faint outline of trees, their branches swaying like skeletal arms. Then a voice, low and gravelly, called my name as if it knew me. Knew I was alone, the sound curling around me like a predator sizing up its prey. Fear coiled in my gut, a primal dread that made my thoughts race. Had someone followed me, a hiker gone mad, or worse? I clutched my knife, heart pounding like thunder as the steps drew closer, the zipper of my tent rustling slightly, a sound that turned my blood to ice. The voice whispered again, closer now, sharing fragments of my life I'd never told a soul. Secrets buried deep, like the night I abandoned a friend in need, or the guilt of a promise I broke. Its tone shifting to a mocking cadence that made my skin crawl. It laughed then, a sound that echoed unnaturally, bouncing off the trees as if the forest itself was in on the joke. The laughter growing into a chorus that surrounded me. I shouted back, my voice cracking, demanding who was there. But the footsteps paused, and something scratched at the tent fabric, slow and deliberate, like nails dragging across skin, the sound grating against my nerves. The air grew colder, my breath visible in the dim light of my lantern, and I felt a presence just outside, heavy, waiting, its weight pressing against the tent wall, distorting the fabric into a grotesque shape. Minutes stretched into eternity as the scratching intensified, accompanied by whispers of my fears, failure, loneliness, death, each word a dagger in my mind. I grabbed my flashlight, shining it out, and for a split second, I saw a face, pale, eyeless, with a grin too wide, before it vanished, leaving only silence. But the silence broke again with a sigh, as if the visitor was disappointed, and the footsteps resumed, fading slowly into the night. But not before one last whisper. "I'll be back for you." When dawn broke, I emerged, finding no footprints, but slashes on the tent that looked like claw marks, deep and jagged. Locals later shared tales of a drifter who died in those hills, his ghost preying on the isolated, feeding on their secrets, his laughter a lure. A Reddit post from another camper mirrored mine. He knew things he couldn't. Don't camp alone there, he'll find your weaknesses. I haven't pitched a tent since. The woods hold too many ears now, and sometimes in quiet moments, I hear that laugh again, closer, as if it's inside my head, waiting for me to sleep. I step into the velvet black of that Swedish forest with you, the air crisp and alive with the rustle of leaves, my group of 4 huddled around a roaring fire, the warmth a fragile shield against the encroaching cold that seeped into my bones. We'd hiked deep into the wild, miles from civilization, the trees towering like ancient guardians, their branches creaking in the wind like a warning. But as night deepened, I heard a low growl echo from the shadows, not like any animal I'd known, deeper, more primal, a rumble that vibrated through the ground, sending shivers through me and silencing our laughter. We joked at first, blaming wolves or bears, but the growl grew closer, circling, accompanied by the snap of branches under massive weight, each crack a jolt to my nerves. My friend ventured out with a flashlight, his beam cutting through the dark, and he froze, eyes reflecting back, huge and yellow, attached to a form that reared up, taller than any bear, its silhouette twisted, almost human, with limbs that bent at impossible angles. Panic exploded as we scrambled into the tents, the creature slamming against the fabric with a force that shook the ground, its hot breath seeping through, reeking of rot and fury, a stench that made me gag. The tent shook violently, and I felt its weight pressing down, claws raking the ground outside as it roared, a sound that vibrated in my chest, making my blood run cold and my ears ring. We whispered among ourselves, hearts racing as it paced, its footsteps heavy, deliberate, like it was toying with us, the rhythm broken by sudden thuds that made the tent poles groan. Then came the worst, a whisper mixed with the growl, almost words, urging us to come out to face it, the voice shifting into a mimicry of my own, pleading with me to step outside. One of us cracked, peeking through the flap, and screamed as a massive paw swiped, tearing the fabric and grazing his arm. Blood warm and sticky in the chaos, his cry echoing into the night. We barricaded ourselves with gear, praying for dawn, the beast circling all night. Its roars interspersed with those eerie whispers that sounded like lost voices calling for help, each one laced with my name. At one point, the tent flap lifted slightly, and I saw its eyes, yellow and unblinking, staring in, a growl rumbling as it pressed its snout against the tear, its breath hot and fetid, teeth glinting in the flashlight beam as it snapped, missing my hand by inches. We held our breath, tears streaming, until first light drove it away, leaving deep gouges in the earth and claw marks on trees that no animal could make, some etched with strange symbols that looked like ancient runes. A wildlife biologist later confided, "Some things in those woods defy explanation. Old legends speak of beasts that walk like men, cursed guardians of the forest." One hiker's forum entry haunts me. It wasn't an elk. It was hunting us, and it spoke our fears. I see those eyes in my dreams, waiting, and feel its breath on my neck when the wind howls, a reminder it might not be done with me, its claws scratching at the edges of my sanity. And so these three nightmares unfold from my lips, raw and unrelenting, pulling you into the heart of the wild, where safety shatters like glass. Did you feel that grip of terror, that pull to glance over my shoulder? These stories aren't just echoes, they're warnings from the woods I faced, reminders that some shadows never fade. I've shared them, but now whisper back, do you believe this really happened to me? Have you ever stared into the dark and felt it stare back? If this kept you awake, it's because it was destined to find you. Subscribe to the channel, but only if you have the courage to camp in the unknown.